So welcome to another video of Tech with Shakul. So OSI मॉडल अगर आपने मेरी पिछली वीडियो देखी होगी एंड तक, तो मैंने एक एंड में थोड़ा सा डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया था कि पैकेट्स जो ट्रैवल करते हैं वो कैसे दूसरे साइड तक पहुंचते हैं और कौन इंश्योर करता है कि दिस ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ पैकेट इज़ हैपनिंग करेक्टली. सो उसमें एक OSI मॉडल का इनकैप्सुलेशन एंड डीकैप्सुलेशन का एग्जाम्पल मैंने दिया था. अगर आपने वो नहीं देखा है तो प्लीज़ जाके देखिए. पहली चीज़, क्योंकि वो एग्जाम्पल बहुत बेसिक है और आपको बहुत ज़्यादा मदद करेगा अंडरस्टैंड करने में कि OSI मॉडल की ज़रूरत क्यों है. और दूसरी चीज़, मेरे व्यूज़ बढ़ जाएंगे. तो OSI मॉडल क्यों, किस चीज़ को कहते हैं, तो एक 7 लेयर मॉडल है जो इस्टेब्लिश किया गया था 1984 में टू ईज आउट द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन हैपनिंग ओवर द इंटरनेट. तो इसमें जो पहली लेयर है वो है एप्लीकेशन. नेक्स्ट इज योर प्रेजेंटेशन. थर्ड वन इज योर सेशन. Fourth one is your transport. Fifth is your network. Sixth is your data link. And the final one is your physical layer. So these 7 layer constitutes what is known as the OSI model. आप बोलेंगे कि मैंने पिछली वीडियो में 4 लेयर मॉडल बताया था. एक्चुअली बहुत लोग क्या करते हैं कि इन लेयर्स को कंबाइन करके एक लेयर बना देते हैं और इस लेयर को कंबाइन करके भी एक लेयर बना देते हैं, तो इसलिए 4 लेयर्स हो जाता है. बट आप इन डेप्थ पढ़िए, 7 लेयर मॉडल है जो एक्चुअली बना था 1984 में. सो हम ये देखते हैं कि ये मॉडल एक्चुअली यूज़ क्यों होता है. तो ये मॉडल आपको यूज़ करेगा, जैसे आप अगर ट्रांसमिशन देख रहे हैं, पढ़ रहे हैं इंटरनेट पे कि कम्युनिकेशन कैसे हो रहा है या एक जगह से दूसरी जगह डेटा पैकेट्स कैसे ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, तो आप देखेंगे कि दिस मॉडल विल हेल्प यू अंडरस्टैंड वेयर द फॉल्ट इज़. कि हो सकता है एप्लीकेशन लेयर में फॉल्ट हो. आपको ये समझ आएगा कि अच्छा किस लेवल को मुझे देखना है, कहाँ पे जाके देखना है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे स्टेप्स हैं. मैंने पिछली बार भी बताया था, व्हेन यू आर सेंडिंग अ बेसिक मैसेज लाइक हाई, दैट ऑल्सो फॉलोज अ लॉट ऑफ स्टेप्स इनसाइड this channel. So it is very tough to understand where the communication gap or breakdown is happening. So this OSI model will always help you to understand, to debug actually where to look for the issue. So the first, now a very basic question that might come into your mind is ki where is this? How can I see this model inside my computer? So actually you can't see this. You are at the tip of the iceberg. This is an iceberg and you are at the tip of it. So this is where the user resides. An application, as you rightly understood, applications are all the applications that you use to access the internet. Now those are internet browsers like Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or your Mozilla Firefox. So all these applications reside at the application layer. Now what is the role of application layer? Application layer, now all of the communication that happens over the internet happens through, I have broadly categorized into 4 things. So you are basically doing 4 different tasks over the internet. One is known as the web browsing, which all of us do every day. So accessing a YouTube video or reading a Wikipedia article or maybe reading a blog on Medium website is always called as web browsing. Now the second one is email. So we all have sent email to our boss or any friend also. So that is also a different category of communication. Okay. Now another one is file transfer. Now this is also which we are well acquainted with. All of us have used Drives and Dropbox. We have uploaded our files on those mediums. So that is known as file transfer. The last one is virtual terminal. Now what is a virtual terminal? Now let me take an example of what virtual terminals are and how it is used. Suppose in this pandemic situation you can't go to your office, right? So you have a desktop in your home and you also have a computer at your office. Now you need to access some files in the office laptop. How do you access them? How do I reach out to that computer and magically transfer those files here, or how do I execute some piece of code over that computer and get the output? How do I magically do that? Can that be possible? Yes. So that can be possible using a virtual terminal. A virtual terminal is nothing but taking a remote of that thing over here. So that's a remote desktop. Now every command that you are executing here on this shell will be executed there and the output will be shown. So we'll talk about virtualization and virtual terminal when we will be discussing about cloud and how this thing has improved the communication over the internet. Okay, so these are the four broad categories of the application of what you want to do in the application layer. Okay, so now all of these layers in the OSI model are nothing but bunch of protocols. So you need to remember what are these. These are bunch of protocols. Okay, so what I still didn't understand, what is the role of application layer. The first role of application layer is to characterize which of these are you doing. So if you are over the internet and you are accessing the internet using some application, which of these four tasks are you doing? So it needs to characterize based on your request. Okay, why do we need to characterize? So it is required to characterize because all of these categories follow different set of protocols. So in order to decide which protocol to follow, we need to characterize them. Okay, why is there a need to follow different protocols? Why can't I follow every same protocol in all these four? So let us understand this through a very common example. Suppose you are outside and you are traveling through some vehicle. Okay, so you need to follow a certain set of principles while riding a bike and a different set of principles while driving a car. So it won't make sense if you are wearing a helmet while driving a car, and same as it won't make sense when you are wearing a seat belt while riding a bike. So there are different set of protocols based on the medium. So similarly, different requests, different types of requests have to follow a different set of protocols. In web browsing, I told you in the first lecture that whenever you are accessing YouTube, it's a HTTP request and a response. So the protocol that you are following is HTTP or HTTPS. Email, it is called SMTP. File transfer is the file transfer protocol, and virtual terminal uses Telnet. So it is the role of the application layer to decide which protocol to follow. Okay, so we understood what is the application layer. Next we move on to the presentation layer. Now presentation layer is the layer which helps us to understand, to make the data. Now it has some different task. Okay, so now that we have understood what the user has to request through the application layer, we need to convert that request that the user has created into a format that is understandable by the machine. तो ये जो request है, ये तो यूजर ने इंग्लिश में लिखी है, अब मशीन को कैसे पता चलेगा what this request is? So the conversion of this request to binary happens on the presentation layer. Okay, ones and zeros, as I told about in the last video, I told you about that everything that is communicating over the internet happens through binary, ones and zeros and all. So this conversion happens on the presentation layer. Now this is not the only thing which happens here. This conversion is followed by what is called as compression. Now compression is something which all of us have done in their life but are scared of. What is compression? So you have all created zip files to upload, like you have a bunch of documents and you want to send them using email. Now you can't send all the files because it has a size limit, 100 MB. So what do? You compress it to a zip file, and that zip file is in some KBs and you send that file. So that is what compression is. Now we have converted this binary. Now this binary needs to be compressed to something which is very compact. Why? Because let's say if I have to throw some ball from this place to there, so it will be easier to throw a tennis ball rather than a basketball. So we need to send this data thousands of miles away. So we need to compress this into a smaller format. Okay. After this compression happens what is known as encryption. Now this is a very interesting topic. We'll discuss this in detail in a separate video. It is a very vast topic, and why encryption is so much important in these times. This encryption helps you to make the data transfer in a very secured way. Now let's discuss what is basic encryption. Let's get back to some time back when all of this didn't exist. So let's say I need to communicate a very secret code to my friend. Now this code is, let's say, a English line, okay, and if I said it normally, anyone can understand, not just my friend, anyone who understands English can understand this line, okay. So what I decided is, I told him that this is a code, whatever Shakul is sending, the second word will be the reverse and the fourth word will be half reversed. Now anyone else which will be listening to my messages will understand this as gibberish, because he doesn't know that there is a secret behind this. So this encryption of mine helps me to only send the information to the user that I want to send, okay. Now this is a very basic encryption that I told you. Nowadays a very complex method of algorithms and all is used, public keys and private keys. We'll talk about public keys and private keys, but to give you a general idea, let's say, so there are two keys which are used in encryption. One is the public key and one is the private key. Now this is you and this is your friend, let's say Raju, okay. So Raju wanted some information from you, okay. He wanted you to send some message to him, okay. So he created two different keys. One is the private key and one is the public key. Now he shared this public key over the internet, over the network. Now public key is accessible to everyone, not just you. You require it because you want to send it, but it is accessible to everyone. This is a public key. Now this private key, he keeps it for himself. This is only with Raju, because he have created the key, he hasn't shared it, so it's only with Raju, no one else knows it. Now what happens, let's say this is this public key can be used only to lock something, okay. Let's say there is a box and all your messages reside inside this box. So this is the message that you want to send to Raju. Now using this public key, you can only lock this box. Anyone who has this key can only lock it further. So this is the message. If anyone is using this key, it can only lock this message. It cannot open this. To open this is known as encryption. To open this, you need the private key. So only Raju can open this locked box. So that is how encryption using private keys and public keys happen over the internet. We'll talk about this, but this is to just give you a general idea how encryption is working these days. Now session layer is where it gets interesting, okay. Now there are two terms which are very common in the session layer. One is known as the authorization and one is the authentication. These are the two terms which are very common when you will read about session layer. What is authorization and what is authentication? We'll discuss this with an example. So this is, let's say, your office. This is your office building, okay, and this has a main door. This door is secured, door is locked. Now within this office are different departments. Let's say this is the finance department. This one is the data lab. This is the HR department. This one is a meeting room for CXOs. CXOs meeting room, okay. Now what is authentication? Authentication is that the security guard over here or just this door will ask you who you are. If this were you and you were trying to enter this will ask you who you are. Are you a member of this office? If yes, then you will be allowed to enter it. If not, then you will be denied access from here itself. So you will be sent out, okay. So this basically asks you who you are. Okay, let's say you were an office member and you had an ID, you punched in and you got inside. Now when you are inside, you can't access all the departments that are. Now a question arises, what you want to do? So if you are a data guy, you might not have access to the finance department. If you're trying to access the finance department, it will say no. If you're trying to access the HR department, it will say no. If you're trying to access the meeting room, it will say no. So you can only, if you are the data guy, you can only access the data lab. So this thing here, this blocking of all the people who are not the part of the office is known as what is called authentication. Authenticating the user that who he is. Does he have the right to enter the building or not? And authorization is where we define access, if the guy has access to this resource or not. Now let us take this example into what we are talking about, the network. Now let's say this is you, this is a client, and this is a server you want to access. Now you are requesting something. So the first thing this guy will do is authentication. This will try to authenticate you, whether you are allowed to access this server. Now this server is another computer. Whether you are allowed to access this computer or not is defined by authentication. Now you entered this server. Whether the file that you are requesting, you sent out a request, right? So the file you are requesting, you have access to that file or not, that is known as authorization. Got it? So the first step that happens is authentication, and post that happens the authorization. Setting up an authenticated and authorized session is the job of the session layer. So you understood what is application, you understood what is presentation, you understood what is session. All the three tasks are done by your web browser. Your web browser does it for you. Now comes to the transport layer. Now transport layer is where reliable communication method is established. Now what do I mean by reliable communication? Reliable communication. So the first important, in the previous video I talked something about transmission speed. So there was, I told you with the light bulb example that if I switch on at 1 bit per second, he will receive at 1 bit per second. So let's say this is your client and this is your server, and the transmission or acceptance speed of this is 1 MB per second. And this guy over here, because it's a big computer, so it has the speed of 100 MB per second. Now you sent out a request. Now authorization and all of that has happened. Okay. Now when this guy is sending back the information, this guy is sending it at a speed of 100 MB per second. That means 100 times, let's say 100 times on off in 1 second. Now this guy can only see one time. In 1 second it can receive only one signal. Now the rest of 99 signals are getting lost or dropped, which is a very bad efficiency for the network. So in the starting of the communication only, these guys need to understand, okay, you have a speed of 1 MB per second, I have a speed of 100 MB per second, let's agree to 1 MB per second. So this guy will send out information only at 1 MB per second, so that every signal that server is sending can be received by the client. So setting up this reliable communication is one part of the transport layer. Now the next job is, okay, in the previous video I told you something about packets. So how the information travels through packets and all. Now who is managing all those packets and who is ensuring that one packet that I sent for my friend is received by my friend only, it is not received by someone else, and all the packets that I sent, all the information that I sent is received by that friend. So that is done by the transport layer itself. So transport layer has two types of protocols which does that for it. So one is the TCP and one is the UDP. TCP is a slower way of communication. This one is a faster way of communication. How this is slower and how this is faster? Okay. In the last video I told you something about header, how all of these layers add some header to understand which layer the packet belongs to. So, so the header which TCP assigns is of the length of 20 bits. And the header which UDP assigns, it's of 8 bits. So there is a 60%, over 60% reduction in the header which is assigned to every packet. So that's why every packet is bigger in the TCP format, and whereas in the UDP protocol it is much smaller. So it travels very fast as compared to the TCP. Okay, this is one difference. The second one is, this is connection established protocol. That means before starting of connection, before starting of transmission of data, there is a well established connection which happens. This one is a connectionless protocol. So let's say this is your client, this is your server, and what happens in TCP is there is a three-way handshake that is done before starting of the communication. So this guy sends the request, do you want to receive? This guy sends out an acknowledgement, yes. And then this guy sends back an acknowledgement, okay. So this is a three-way communication, three-way handshake that is happening between two parties, the client and the server, before starting of the communication. So TCP is a connection established protocol, whereas UDP, this doesn't happen. There is no three-way handshake. So what happens is direct transfer and retrieval of information happens. Now because of this connection established and connectionless, this guy has an ability to restore or re-ask the dropped or lost packet. And whereas this thing is not there in the UDP. So what do I mean by re-ask and restore the dropped packets? So even though we have established a transmission rate that I will be sending at a speed of 1 MB per second, which is accepted by both the parties, but what can happen is, there due to some harm in the network, a packet can be dropped within the transmission only. Now how do I restore this packet? I can't restore it from the network. So as a client, suppose this client is sending out request in the form of packets. So out of the 10 packets it sent, only 7 were received by the server. So if this is a TCP, if this is happening through TCP handshake, then this guy will ask for these 3 packets again, and this guy will send back the 3 packets. This will happen only in the case of TCP. In the UDP, it has no medium of re-asking. It will only, if this guy sends out 10 and it receives only 7, those 7 will only be used. Now why will I use such unreliable source of UDP communication where lost packets are not retrieved also? Why will I use that? I will use it because it is much faster. So wherever my bandwidth is very minimal, I don't have that much bandwidth, so I will use UDP connections. So UDP connections are used where we have to be at a real time speed. Let's say I am calling you FaceTime, or I am doing a voice over IP, or let's say I'm streaming something on Netflix. So I need heavy speed, I need a real time connection. So that is where UDP connection takes place. Now you will ask, let's say I'm streaming something and packet loss happens. I can't see the whole movie. No, that is not the case. What happens is, scalable packets are made over here. Now all the packets are made in a larger quantity so that they travel from the small bandwidth network faster. Okay, so that is what is happening in the transport layer. Now these 3 layers are where actual addressing of the message takes place, not assigning, addressing of that message. So how to address the packet, where do it belongs to and where to reach. So this can be explained using this example. So in machine, let's say this is your machine. There are thousands and thousands of applications. You have a lot of applications inside this. So these are your applications. Now this machine is a part of a network. So the outer layer is your network, The green layer is your machine and the red layers are your application. Now why these three layers are important, I'll tell you. Okay, let's say what you were doing is you were sending out a message using WhatsApp from one application, from one computer, and when this is your second computer, this machine is your second computer, this one is your first computer. You're sending out a message from this WhatsApp, you expect to see, now this is WhatsApp and this is Skype. Now if I'm sending out a hi from here, if it is received on Skype, the hi is received on Skype, it won't look nice, right? It should be received on WhatsApp only. So it will make sense when this hi would be received on WhatsApp. So how does a packet, now all this transfer is happening through packets. So how this packet knows which network, which machine and which application to reach, how to address this. So this addressing happens in these three layers. Okay. Now network addresses the application through the use addresses the packet through the use of IP address and subnet. Okay, I understood. IP address, I told you in the last class that IP address is a way of uniquely identifying any resource over the internet. If you want to identify any website or machine or anything on the internet, on the network, you can use IP address. तो एक क्वेश्चन आ सकता है कि अगर IP address है तो I can locate this machine. Why do I need the subnet? Okay, why do I need the subnet is to understand which network it belongs to. So this thing is a network. So why do I need network when I have the machine name only? Why do I need the outer layer when I have the machine IP address? Let's understand this through an example. So let's say this is a set of houses, okay, and I have numbered these houses in a unique. I have assigned a unique number to every house, and you are to find your friend's house Raju. Okay, that number is 1073. Let's say the Raju's house number is 1073. So you start from 1 and you go till 1073 to find out the Raju's house. Now this were to be very easier if I had set up locality. I say that every 100th house changes the locality. So first 100 houses are locality 1. Now the next 100 are locality 2. Next 100 are locality 3. Okay, now this solves my problem. I understand by just looking at the number 1073, I understood that Raju resides in 11th locality. Okay, now I don't need to look into these 10 localities before. I will straight away go to the 11th locality and find 1073 in there. So my search got very much faster by just using one layer of mask. This is known as masking. So this subnet is very important to tell the packet, okay, which network you need to reach. So this network will be assigned a subnet mask. So this subnet and IP address combination will help you identify which machine and which network to reach. So that is done by your network layer. Network layer is where your routers and all your network devices reside. Okay, now comes to the data link layer. Now data link layer is where the MAC address of your interface card resides. Now this is the layer which actually tells you on this device where to enter, which port to enter, which interface card to use. So this packet will not know how to enter that machine if data link layer wasn't there. So this data link layer assigns the MAC address and all that addressing to the packet. Now physical layer is where your binary packet is converted into what is known as signals. So we talked about in the last video different kind of signals. So electrical signals, light waves, radio waves, and all of that signal conversion is happening over the physical layer. Also the data link layer decides which physical layer, which physical medium to use. So whether it will be a Ethernet cable, so electrical signals will be made, whether it will be a optical fiber, so optical light impulses will be made, whether it will be a radio transmission, so radio waves will be made. So all that decision happens in this two layers. So we combinedly call them the transmission layer. So physical layer is made of the data link and the signal. Now this sums up what is the OSI model. I hope you understood what is there. Now there will be a bonus video which I will be sharing on Sunday. So what that will be, there is a competition, basically an hackathon which is being organized by Skillenza, an AWS hackathon. It's a very simple hackathon. The theme is that you need to develop something serverless on AWS. Now I understand that I haven't talked about AWS or serverless architecture in any of my videos. This is just a beginning. So, but what I'll do is I'll explain to you how you can apply to a hackathon very easily. If you're scared of ever applying into a hackathon, you can watch that video, how to create a AWS account freely and how to use all those resources and submit a basic solution to that hackathon.